It's not fair!
What's up? Eh?
What's up? They're not going to show my programmes!
Oh, well, they might still, Fatso.
I've got the BBC2 schedule here, no banter.
That's because you're a fat owl. Yes, it is, Fatso.
Look, I've had about enough of this.
Why don't you threaten to sit on them?
Shut up, you rotters! What?
Yes, go on, it's a good idea, it really is. Try it.
Yes!
Yeah, go out there and sit on BBC1 and 2 until they agree to put your programmes out.
That's brilliant!
Yeah, and we'll come and cheer you. If you sit on the contract. Yeah.
Yes, and then I'll make them broadcast my shows all day long for weeks.
Yeah, just make sure. Fantastic. Make sure they don't redub you.
Oh, that's a point. I hate it when they do that. It makes people sound really stupid.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, that's a brilliant wheeze. Get on them. Get on them.
Up in the air, the whole schedule with TV time. We don't care. There goes the sporting line.
This is BBC Television, broadcasting from the television centre.
And back at the television centre, we now join John Ketley for the Weather View, 90s style.
Good evening. Well, we do believe the weather graphics have come an awful long way in the past 40 years, but sometimes the weather itself leaves a lot to be desired. Pretty good today, though. In Europe, you can see some very high temperatures, around about 31 degrees throughout the Mediterranean, but as high as 35 or 36 down through France and Spain. But on the evening satellite picture, we can see some very nasty thunderstorms brewing up in the same part of the world, and some nasty thunderstorms there running north out of Benidorm just at the present time. Over the next few days, if you're going away, it's going to stay hot and rather thundery in some eastern parts of Iberia, into southern parts of France, and further storms through Italy, the Alps and eastwards into the Balkans as well. Now, it's been pretty hot in this country today, up to 27 degrees, for instance, at Ross-on-Wye and at London. And even though northern parts of Britain were fairly cloudy, it was reasonably warm, up to 23 at Aberdeen on the eastern side of Scotland. But you can see rather more cloud on the satellite picture as you're headed north. Well, there's high pressure covering the country at the moment, and this very, very weak weather front which is slipping southwards, but all the time it's becoming weaker and weaker. But it's still giving a fair amount of cloud around the borders there, still giving the odd patch of rain and drizzle, and some rather murky conditions up on the hills and around the coast. But some dense patches of fog developing further south under those clear skies, and temperatures staying around about 13 or 14 degrees, the mid-50s all night. Up in the north of Scotland, where you get some clearances coming through, perhaps down to a rather chilly 10 there. Well, that's tomorrow's chart then, with this high pressure firmly established on our doorstep, and this weakening front just slipping away into the North Sea. It will mean a rather cloudy start, though, particularly around central and southern Scotland, coming down into northwest England and running through into Northern Ireland as well. I think most of the rain and drizzle, though, will virtually have died out by tomorrow morning. Plenty of hot sunshine as you head south, and some pleasant sunshine too up there in northeastern districts of Scotland. And late in the day, and probably after dark, you will find the cloud thickening once again, with outbreaks of rain returning to northwest Ireland and the Western Isles of Scotland. So a pretty hot day tomorrow, up to 25 to 27 degrees in many parts of England and Wales. With all this cloud around, of course, it's going to be a bit cooler there, but around about 18 and 19, possibly 20 or 21 degrees, though, in the sunnier parts of northeast Scotland. So tomorrow evening, you will find this thicker cloud bringing the rain up into northwestern districts of the country, and there'll be a freshening wind as well. And that sets the scene, really, for Wednesday, when you can see the high pressure still firmly established across England and Wales, these weather fronts clipping through Scotland and just about Northern Ireland as well. So there will be outbreaks of rain coming through, but the heaviest rain, the more persistent rain, will be up in the far north, where it will stay rather windy. Coming further south, though, with all this sunshine around, it looks like we're going to see temperatures every bit as high as tomorrow, could be even a little bit higher, up to 25, 26 or 27, so around about 80 degrees Fahrenheit. I'm going to finish with the outlook for the World Athletics Championships taking place in Tokyo. Looks like it's going to turn rather more humid once again towards the end of the week, an increasing chance of some showers, but certainly very hot, temperatures around 32 degrees Celsius. That's it from me. Bye-bye for now.
Oh, miss.
BBC2 presents a season of Katharine Hepburn movies and the Katharine Hepburn interview. She talks about her rise to stardom and, for the first time, her life with Spencer Tracy. The ups and downs of her extraordinary film career and her co-stars. The Katharine Hepburn interview, tomorrow 9:30 on BBC2.
Well, starting on BBC One in just over 10 minutes, except in Wales and Scotland, a visit to the floodlit esplanade of Edinburgh Castle for highlights of the Edinburgh Military Tattoo. Here on 2 in 25 minutes, Richie Benno looks back at today's play in the Test match between England and Sri Lanka at Lord's. Now, an Open University programme for the Arts Foundation course. Colin Cunningham traces the history of the Victoria and Albert Museum in the 19th century, from its pioneering origins as part of Prince Albert's grand educational design to its establishment in the 1890s as a treasure house of great works.
We tend to take our great museums for granted. The imposing, almost daunting grandeur of their architecture seems entirely appropriate for long-established treasure houses of art and knowledge. Yet, many of those collections, and the museums that house them, date only from the last century. To the Victorians, they were a new development in education, providing collections available to all, or at least to all who had the leisure to visit the museums. The South Kensington Museum didn't acquire its present name, or these grand buildings, until the turn of the century. The effect of all this is to suggest a sense of tradition and permanence, and of absolute objective values for the contents. Appropriately, the spire is capped by a statue of Fame. Yet, behind the uniformity of the facade, you can look down on the buildings inside and see from the jumble of roofs just how piecemeal the museum's development really was. Working backwards from 1909, when the main facade was completed, we can see that before then there was no grand exterior at all. The library, built between 1878 and 83, replaced a set of temporary museum buildings. The cast courts and science schools were only completed in the early 1870s. And the central block and the north and south courts to the right were built between 1862 and 69. And between 1857 and 59, the Vernon, Turner and Sheepshanks galleries. Before that, there was just a temporary museum of corrugated iron painted green and white. And in 1851, only Brompton Park House at the centre of a large estate for sale. So why was the building so piecemeal? And what can that reveal about the reasons for